Good morning, it's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, in this video we are going to be talking about some pretty amazing phenomena, anomalies, call them what you will. I don't think they're anything like synchronicity as a lot of scientists will write off. We're starting off with looking at photographs of what should be a common occurrence for most people. Most people have seen a solar eclipse. And what I'm talking about when I'm talking about synchronicity is something that cannot be just by coincidence. It would be impossible. If you're a scientist, you know the odds of looking at a solar eclipse from the surface of the Earth, watching the moon completely cover the disk of the sun exactly when we know that the moon is somewhat 400 times smaller than the sun, but it is positioned in exactly the right space around 250,000 miles away from Earth in Earth's orbit. We can call, if you want, the moon a satellite because it orbits the Earth. You know, we've known this for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But the mere fact that the moon's surface, as it creeps over the sun during a solar eclipse, covers the disk of the sun perfectly, cannot be written off as just a coincidence. There is something more behind this than meets the eye. And if you're a scientist, you know this. You know you cannot drop 200 matchsticks on the floor and have it spell out your name and address perfectly. This is the same rarity of that happening as that moon covering that disk perfectly. There's something else as well we take for granted, and that is the position of where the Earth is with regards to there being liquid water to support life. Liquid water, without that there would be no life on this planet whatsoever. It is critical that it is in a liquid form and not a solid state like ice, and not just in a gas state like water vapour or mist or fog or clouds. There's something more going on, and most people take that for granted. You know, I mentioned many times that one morning I woke up with an equation. As you guys know, it's been following me for a long time, we call this the universal equation. It's a unique equation. You chuck in any numbers that represent any object, platonic object, could be a tree, a mushroom, you name it, could be anything you want. But science have found a way of converting that object into a mathematical formula, and once we put it into numbers, we can put those numbers into the universal equation, and it filters them down to just two possibilities, a 9 or a 0. Again, just like the the solar eclipse, you know, there is no coincidence behind this. These are benchmarks that we should be paying more attention to in our lives, and if we did, I think we would have a little bit more respect for, you know, our behaviour. And right now, you know, I could just point fingers left, right and centre, and I think most of you guys know, if you've got families or you live on your own, and you know, there is nothing but hardships taking place right now. We are not making this a place for the next generation to thrive and be happy in. And you know, the Bible states you can make it a heaven on earth or a hell on earth. And I just want to talk about what, in my view, is the definition of hell on earth. Hell is just a behaviour pattern of a lot of people you just wouldn't want to associate with. That's what makes a hell. Heaven is an association with people like yourselves that are kind, loving, caring, as opposed to those people who you would describe as being in hell, carrying the attitude of corruption, greed and wickedness. And it should come as no surprise that when a world is filled with, you know, hell people, it is not a very nice place that anyone would want to live. But let me tell you something, nature, as a scientist, I have learned, right, there is something more formidable than anything that man can control, and that is nature. And if you look into nature, you will find a lot more is going on, and you will find that there is no mistakes of where the Earth was positioned with relationship to that star in the centre of our galaxy. And it is no mistake that when we stand on the surface of the Earth, there is a reminder, a clear reminder, that something special positioned this Earth and created this Earth so that we would know every day that it was by no means a mistake, a mere coincidence. And I'm talking about that solar eclipse. These things just do not randomly fall into place. The rarity of something like this taking place is trillions and trillions to one. And we've been given this as our birthright. And it is our duty as good stewards on this planet to take care of it. But that should be the only reminder most people need, with a bit of common sense in the head, that there is more going on, and that there has been something done on our behalf for us to have this experience. You know, if I ask a neuroscientist or a surgeon, where is the conscious in the human mind, he's going to have a guess. Trust me, this day and age. Oh, he's going to be more than happy to tell us where he thinks it is. But if we put his career on the line and we start to really investigate where he points to the part of the brain, could be the frontal lobes, the whatever lobes and whatever sections of the brain. I've not really paid too much attention to that studying biology because I was interested in other things. But the point is this: he will not be able to tell you 100% and put his career on the line that that is where our conscious lies. I believe that the brain is just a receiver for that conscious. That, you know, there is something more going on than we all can really comprehend in this world. And you know, it's sad that there isn't many people reminding each other of all these little special things that take place, you know, in a time where we're fighting, you know, pandemics, be it, you know, influenza badged up as modern COVID-19 for a political purpose maybe. I really don't care. What I care about is the actual policies that have been implemented as a result of those things that we're having to live with right now. And what I really care about is the people that are suffering as a result of that, the people that are losing their jobs, the people that are losing their businesses. And I don't mind even big or small businesses, but you know what, it is shame to build up an empire like an airline company and then in the blink of an eye have that removed. In 1 year you've spent 20 years building it up, and in 1 year you lose it. 20 years building up a restaurant, and in 1 year you lose it. You've worked your whole life as a pub landlord, and you are now threatened with having to take a job yourself doing something that is not familiar to you, being taken out your comfort zone and being placed in something horrendously horrible and, you know, unworkable for you. That's what I'm interested in. But there is science, and there is something beyond science. And, you know, I have tried to show you guys that. You know, I cop a lot of flack because, you know, they're saying you can't have it both ways, Gene. You can't be on one side, you know, talking about conscious, universal equations, the universal conscious, and then come back to the standards of science. But I'm just telling you now, from my personal experience as a scientist, there is more going on than what we really realise. Something else is taking place, and you know what, you can say whatever you want, but I think you'll all agree with me that when we start to see the majority of people's attitude leaning towards that of a hellish behaviour, you know, the hellish behaviour again is just a behaviour of people that you don't want to associate with. Stealing, robbing, adultery, you know, corruption, stealing off weaker people than yourself to make yourself richer. This is what we're dealing with. And you know what? All I can say is it was told to us 2,000 years ago. It was been put in a biblical text for us to read as and when we want, freely. You know, we could go to church and learn about these morals and dogmas. And, you know, this modern attitude that people have got is, you know, completely as it was explained, would be in that book. And for that reason, we know what times we're in, most of us. And a lot of us just are sitting here in awe, watching the shocking behaviour of the majority of people on this earth, crumbling over everybody else to get, you know, a little something. We're witnessing greed, corruption and wickedness go out of control. And it's been set precedents for a standard behaviour of how everybody should act. And I just applaud to those few people to hold steady. Don't cross that line. Because there is something at work far more powerful right now, and it is allowing people that opportunity of free will to behave how they will. And trust me, as has been promised, their rewards are coming equally to them. And you can read this in the book yourself. Let those be wicked be more so wicked. Their reward is with them. And let them be that are good, let them be good, and their reward is with them. We all know about karma. This is something we call karma, but it could be easily described as justice. And who is the one that is in charge of justice? So let them behave how they will. I will say this, there will be in these times people that will come into your life through some way or other. Could be just a stranger whilst you're waiting in a queue that turns around and has a little chat with you. There will be people that will come into your life. They will be few at this point in time, but they will hold a small amount of promising light. And there's a reason for those people being here right now. And if you're smart, you'll work it out. It is to remind us, first of all, of the times that we're in and we're going through. And secondly, that there is still a glimmer of light in our lives. What we're looking at here is just a few paragraphs out of chapter 19 of Revelations in the Bible. And the reason why I'm going to show you this is because we live in a time and an age where freedom of information, freedom of speech is being suppressed, and I believe they know, those that are doing it, why they're doing it. And I'll just read this from chapter 11, or paragraph 11. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon that was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doeth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but himself, and he was clothed with a vesture dripping in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, and white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty God. And he have on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. If you know what we're talking about in this part of the Bible, we're talking about a guy that has come to war with the nations on earth, and he is mightier than all of them. And if you read in different scriptures that they go around in things that fire spikes and arrows and things like that, but this guy, his weapon is his tongue. And that is probably because, you know, the word is more powerful than any armament you could have, because nothing cuts deeper than the truth. And it's probably what he says that turns every nation against the nation's ruler at that point in time, simply by words and the truth. Guys, you know there are many sayings in this book, and some of them, most of you hopefully will be familiar with, and you know that it's said that in times like we live today, that people would easily and more rightly believe in lies than the truth. And we have seen this demonstrated time and time again, and it's becoming more and more frequently observed. I just want to leave you with a couple of more paragraphs of this, just to prove what I'm saying is true, that it is from the book and not just me saying it. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He which is filthy, let him be filthy still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall be. Some people say it's karma. Some people don't even recognise it. But there is something more powerful beyond the surface of this earth, beyond the atmosphere of this earth, beyond the solar system in which we live, which has never been dormant. And I would believe, if he was here today, Sir Isaac Newton, that spent the majority of his time, of his free time in the evenings trying to decode this book, would say the same thing. I bet you Nikola Tesla would agree with me on this matter, that we are living, most of us, with not with the knowledge of something more powerful than nature itself. And it does interfere, if you like the word interfere, it does interact with our lives, and that's simply because we are all part of a plan that was created probably billions of years ago, beyond even a thinkable, imaginable time in the past, and has not ended that plan to this day, and that plan is continuously going to move into the future infinitely. It will never end. But there are rules that the pattern of is following of the plan. The plan is being followed by a specific set of rules, and I believe that the universal conscious is a big demonstration of that, and it shouldn't come as any surprise that that such an equation is out there now. Before we could understand even what those nines and zeros meant, we had to first of all 50 years ago start working with a common binary system. Binary systems have been out for a lot longer than what we care to imagine. Trust me, binary systems was part of even some ancient civilizations, but I bet you they didn't know at the time when they was using these binary systems what the true meant, the true meaning of them was. Now we are clearly understanding binary systems. The digital language on a CD-ROM is ones and zeros. The universal conscious uses a different series of numbers, nines and zeros. So it should come as no surprise that before we learn to run, we learn to walk. So we had to have a basic understanding of what a binary system was in order for us at a later date to understand the true meaning of how the binary system works. And there has been many scientists that have recognised specific numbers that are mentioned in this book that even by the writer wouldn't understand at the time it was written. And that is because, you know, where the information was coming from was greatly superior. You have to realise that the solar eclipse is not just a coincidence. Could never be a coincidence, because we would have to recreate the experiment billions of times in order to get that right alone. And then the distance from our star itself and the position of our Earth is by no means a coincidence. It is part of the plan. It is part of the way this universe works. And for a lot of you people, I just hope that you take one thing away from this. You know, you've been given some really interesting food for thought here in this video alone, and there has been lots of videos that I've done which are equally, I believe, important, but what you should take away from this is something special, that there is really no need to fear. That is, of course, unless you are, as is described, filthy, unjust, corrupt, wicked, and greedy. Because you can call it karma if you want, or you can call it justice. But it is promised, for your actions, you will be rewarded. I hope that you've taken something away from this today. And I just want to leave it on one final note. So just before we leave, guys, I want to share something with you. I seem to have a unique ability of working out things before they actually take place. Not 100%, but I would say close to 90%, which is good enough for me. And I wouldn't be surprised if we are all being tested during these difficult times. And if we are being judged on our actions, then now is a time for our actions to start to lean towards that of faithfulness, goodness, helpfulness, that sort of thing. I think you get the picture. And therefore we will be judged, hopefully, on even a recent ability to, you know, do the right thing. So I'm asking you to think twice next time you see a homeless person on the street, because as we know, it is probably from no fault of their own due to this pandemic that we are facing that they have found themselves on there. We know that there are tens of thousands of people here in the UK and all over the world that are losing their homes, and that if we can afford to give a little to them, I think we should. Because we don't know if that person that looks dirty, unclean, smells, is an angel waiting to test you. We don't know that. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope there has definitely been some seeds planted in this video. And I hope that you have recognised that there is still, even though what is all going on around us, there are still people carrying that torch. And I can tell you now, even the slightest light in the pitch darkness is visible. And if that is all you see, then you should move towards it. We'll continue business as usual from tomorrow, I'm sure. But you know, I do appreciate, you know, giving a little bit of my time to discuss these things, because in such a day and age where we see all this happening, I think it is good for people to recognise that there are other people sharing them views alongside with them. So I definitely do. And you know, I want to wish you the best of a great weekend, and you know, I'll probably catch up with you maybe tomorrow or maybe Monday, and we'll begin where we left off with, you know, following these rare anomalies that are taking place and this unusual time which we all live. Guys, there's a link down there in the description if you want to help support us. There is also one on our website, as you can see, and over 7,000 people walk by the donate link, and maybe one or two might donate a week on that, as we've seen. And if you want to become one of our patrons, do so. You know, I think it's time to start working as a team and working with people that you are like-minded with. That's as simple as all I've got to say, other than the fact, you know, that you have your loved ones to take care of, I believe, first and foremost, and then it is probably a luxury if you're able to look after others. But bear in mind what I said in this video. And the only other thing to say is what I usually do. Bye for now.